this week's episode of Ushio and Tora. The tables are turned, and this week the true villain is actually man. Dun dun dun! That's right, this week's episode of Ushio and Tora completely demonstrates that man can be just as evil as any demon. This week's episode also just happened to have a really heartfelt story which was all about attaining freedom and the risks that come with it. This week's episode was also really good in terms of the animation and artwork. I think some of the best that I've seen from the entire series, just the expressions of the characters. You know, Ushio and Tora really do steal the show in terms of their expression, but this week's episode also featured some really great characters. This week's episode of Ushio and Tora features the spear-wielding hero and the lightning demon himself, continuing their journey so that they can find the truth about Ushio's mother, and along the way they make brand new enemies and brand new friends. After their battle with the sickle weasels known as the Kamaitaichi, they decide to take a little stop at these hot springs. That's where they run into this girl who goes by the name of Saia, a very beautiful but timid girl with hair as white as snow. Saia actually has the ability to both see demons and communicate with them, and she's actually used cruelly by her father and her grandmother to actually take control of this demon, which is known as the Zashiki-warashi, otherwise known as Amamori-sama. This is this weird demon which actually grants the users who hold it infinite good fortune and wealth, but only if they can actually manage to contain this demon. And what they did was, this family, over the course of time, trapped this demon, put a barrier around it, and they're using its ability to sort of reap the rewards of it. But this demon wants to go, it just wants its freedom. Its freedom, however, is going to mean its death. While at the same time you have the character of Saia, who, like I said, is very timid and slightly sickly, and just wants her freedom herself. Every single time she tries to leave, she's forced to return and look after this demon. Both the demon, the yokai, and Saia simply just want their freedom, but it's gonna come at the cost of the death of the Zashiki-warashi. It's gonna come at the death of the Zashiki-warashi. It's gonna come at the death of this, you know what? It's gonna come at the death of the creepy little girl yokai. That's what I'm gonna call it. You know why? Because its name is really hard to pronounce. I am not good at pronouncing these things, so just work with me. Okay, so weird little creepy thing, the little creepy girl, Amamori-sama, whatever it's called, is really surprising in this episode, because going into it, I really felt that there was going to be a twist, that this demon was going to be very malicious and evil, but no, it's actually Saia's father and grandmother that are the real villains in this week's episode, as they're trying to take control of the daughter, and of course to contain the demon so that they can sort of take control of the land and keep all of their wealth. They're extremely greedy people, and they're just as bad as any of the demons that we've seen from this week's episode, and they will go to any lengths to actually protect this demon and make sure that nothing bad happens to the daughter as well. And when they see that Ushio actually has the beast spear, they figure now it's time to probably take this guy out. But after a little bit of action and the fact that Ushio ends up destroying the barrier, things do not work out for them, and there is going to be a happy ending in this week's episode. The Zashiki-warashi takes a final bow and is able to say goodbye to her friend Saia, and she's able to finally be free, as is Saia, who actually goes through a little bit of a character change. Throughout the entire course of the episode, all she can seem to do is apologize to people and basically just be subservient. It's not until the end of the episode that Ushio has taught her to be a little bit more confident in herself, and it ends on a very nice high note that'll just give you the feels. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Ushio and Tora? This might have been one of the better story episodes of Ushio and Tora. Not so much for the action. Despite that, there was some really cool action in this week's episode, but everything else in terms of like the animation, the artwork, the lighting, the atmosphere, that combined with the music, just really worked for this week's episode. Not to mention that there were characters in the story that I think viewers will actually care about, especially the character of Saia, who's a very tragic character and one that a lot of people can get very attached to. And like I said, I think the thing that's most effective about this episode is that it's actually the humans in this one who are bad, which is a very nice change. It's not like last week's episode where basically they had this environmental message where they're saying humans were destroying the land and everything. No, we actually got to see the real threat in this week's episode, which was her family. And there's also this whole disturbing backstory, which is about Saia's mother, who apparently died when she was younger, and how basically the father didn't really have like a husband-wife relationship with her. They were simply just using her powers to talk to demons and to console them and to keep them within the barrier just so that they could continue to have their wealth. It's really freaking disturbing, and it's some pretty heavy-handed material for the show, but then again, Ushio and Tora is a show that I really think has a great balance of going really serious and having these other really funny moments. The other parts about this episode, which were very short-lived at the beginning, you get to see more of those monks, which are basically just there to remind us that they exist. They're basically there to remind us the Hakumen no Mono is coming and that they're going to be watching Ushio very carefully because he could indeed be the Chosen One, which, when they said the Chosen One, did anybody else just think that was really cheesy? That has been done to freaking death. But then again, it almost just seems like a classic anime trope at this point. But luckily, all that stuff is really short-lived, and it's just at the beginning of the episode, and right after that, we jump right into the meat of the story, which is really well done. Not to mention, there's also some great humor in this week's episode. At the beginning of the episode, Ushio and Tora hanging out at the hot springs. I especially love the scene where Ushio uses his hands and hits Tora in the face with some water with a squirt gun, and Tora is completely confounded by this. He has no idea how this is possible, and him just trying to learn that and his facial expressions make for a lot of laughs. Not to mention the scene where Ushio actually sees Saia in the hot springs and his overall reaction. Ushio always reacts that way around females, but again, he's an incredibly expressive character, just like Tora. They really work well off of each other, and this week's episode was also pretty freaking good. I liked it a lot. It wasn't a perfect episode, it was a little slow at the beginning, but when the main story finally kicked in, it was really good. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, Ushio and Tora fans. It was pretty awesome. Before you guys leave today, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Ushio and Tora, if you liked any of the new characters who were introduced, and some of the hints about this Hakumen no Mono thing at the beginning, and what you hope to see from the rest of the Ushio and Tora anime series. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it and share it with your friends. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, that way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews, and you can also check out our weekly podcast show, The Powerful Nerdcast, which is up on YouTube, and you can also find that on iTunes and Rogue Intel. You can download the show for free. I'll put links for all that in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.